My name is Leo. I am 28 years old, and for the last 3 years I have been a married man. If it hadn't been for a single misdialed phone call, I might have lived the rest of my life in the dark, never knowing that my wife, Clara, the woman who seemed so perfect to everyone we knew, had broken the promises of our marriage a long time ago. It was 10 o'clock on a Tuesday evening, and I was in my study, looking over some financial reports for work. Clara had told me she was working late at the office and hadn't come home yet. The house was quiet. Suddenly, my phone buzzed on the desk. The caller ID showed her name, Clara. I felt a flicker of confusion, wondering why she would call instead of just coming home, but I picked it up, ready to ask when she would be back. "Hey, babe. Did you miss me?" Clara's voice, smoother and gentler than I'd heard it in a very long time, came through the speaker. It was a tone that could make you feel like you were the only person in the world. For a moment, I was speechless, about to respond, but then she kept talking. "Last night at the hotel, you mentioned wanting a baby. Well, I'm on my way home to you now." A chill went through me. My blood felt like it had turned to ice. Last night? The hotel? A baby? Clara had been home with me last night. We had even had a small argument because she was so absorbed in her phone and wouldn't put it down. I held my breath, my fingers clenching the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. From the other end of the line, a clear male voice responded, "Babe, I just got out of the shower. Hurry back." The man's voice was youthful, with a playful, almost pleading quality to it. I heard Clara let out a soft, low chuckle. "Okay, I'm heading out now. By the way, I'll figure out a reason to go on a business trip tomorrow. We can finally go to that beach resort you've been wanting to see." The man's voice erupted with excitement. "Really? That's amazing! I love you so much!" he shouted. "I love you too, Ethan," she replied softly. Ethan. I committed the name to memory. When the call finally disconnected, I looked down and realized my hands were trembling. 3 years of marriage, and it was all a lie, a performance. I pushed my chair back from the desk and walked into the living room, my eyes fixing on our wedding photograph on the wall. In the picture, Clara had her arm linked through mine, her smile so brilliant it looked like she believed I was the most wonderful thing in her world. And just now, she had whispered, "I love you," to another man. I sank onto the couch, trying to force my breathing to slow down. I saw 2 paths ahead of me. I could confront her immediately, leading to a massive, explosive fight that would end in divorce. Or I could quietly begin to gather evidence, piece together the truth, and make sure she faced the consequences of her actions. I chose the second path. If she had decided to betray me, she could not fault me for being methodical in my response. At 11:30, Clara finally arrived home. The moment she walked through the door and saw me sitting in the dimly lit living room, her cheerful expression wavered. "Leo, why are you still awake?" she asked, walking over and leaning down as if to kiss my forehead. I shifted away just enough for her to miss. "I was waiting for you. Another late night at work?" Her eyes darted around the room for a second. "Yeah, this new project is really demanding. Oh, and speaking of that, I might have to go on a business trip for a few days, starting tomorrow, down to San Francisco to meet with a client." A business trip? Just as she'd planned on the phone. I simply nodded. "Okay, I understand. I'm going to take a shower." She moved quickly toward our bedroom. I watched her go, a cold, bitter feeling settling in my stomach. A shower, I thought, to wash away the scent of another man. I pulled out my phone and checked my call history. The call from earlier was logged, showing a duration of 3 minutes and 21 seconds. And the contact was, without a doubt, Clara. She must have intended to call this Ethan person and accidentally selected my name instead. It felt as if even fate was pushing me to uncover the truth. While she was in the shower, I quietly went into the bedroom and checked the pockets of her coat, which she'd thrown over a chair. Just as I suspected, I found a hotel keycard. It was for the Ritz, room 1203. Tucked inside the same pocket was a receipt from a department store at the mall, dated that afternoon. It was for a men's watch, with a price of $18,000. An $18,000 watch. She had never bought me a gift that came close to that price. I used my phone to take clear pictures of the keycard and the receipt, then carefully placed everything back exactly as I had found it. When Clara emerged from the shower, her mood seemed to have lifted. She was cheerful as she wrapped her arms around my neck. "Honey, I'll be away for a few days, so you'll have to take care of yourself at home, okay?" Her voice was laced with concern, but I knew her thoughts were with another man. "Yeah, you too," I replied, my voice flat. Believing I was completely unaware, she laid the affection on thick, even giving me a lingering kiss. I had to fight back a wave of nausea as I played along with her charade. If she wanted to put on a performance, then I would be her co-star until the very end. Lying in bed that night, I listened to the steady sound of Clara's breathing beside me. My mind, however, was wide awake, racing as I began to formulate a plan. I needed to find out who this Ethan was. I needed more definitive evidence. I needed to make them both understand the gravity of what they had done. 3 years ago, I had put my own career ambitions on the back burner to manage our home and support her work. I had even given her the $1 million my family had given me as a startup fund to help her launch her business, and in return, she was secretly supporting another man behind my back. She couldn't blame me for what was about to happen. This was a conflict she had started. The next morning, just as she had indicated, Clara packed a small suitcase for her business trip. I was in the kitchen preparing breakfast, maintaining a calm exterior while my thoughts were a storm of calculations and plans. "Honey, I'm leaving now," Clara announced, rolling her suitcase toward the front door to give me a kiss. "Be safe," I said, managing a smile. "When do you think you'll be back?" She paused, thinking. "Probably in 3 or 4 days. It really depends on how the work goes." I nodded and watched her leave. The moment her car disappeared down the street, my plan went into motion. My first priority was to identify Ethan. I opened Clara's laptop, which was still on the dining table. Her password was my birthday, a small detail that had once made me feel cherished. Now, the irony was just painful. I searched through her chat histories, emails, and photo albums, but I couldn't find anything out of the ordinary. It was clear she was cautious, keeping all her secrets confined to her phone. I remembered seeing her leave her phone on the vanity while she showered last night. I had missed a crucial opportunity to look at it then. Since a direct search wasn't yielding any results, I knew I had to shift my approach. I took the hotel keycard from my wallet and decided to go to the location itself. The Ritz was not far from our house, only about a 20-minute drive. I found a small cafe across the street from the hotel entrance, ordered a coffee, and settled in to watch. After more than an hour of waiting, I saw exactly who I was looking for. Clara stepped out of a taxi, and by her side was a young man. He couldn't have been more than 23 or 24, tall and slender, wearing a simple white t-shirt. His arm was linked with Clara's, and they looked as comfortable and close as a pair of college students. This had to be Ethan. I pulled out my phone and quickly took several pictures. After they disappeared into the hotel, I waited for 10 minutes before I followed them inside. "Hi," I said to the front desk clerk. "I'm a friend of the guest in room 1203. She told me to come up and meet her." The clerk replied politely, "Could you please contact the guest so she can confirm?" I said, "Of course." I pretended to make a call on my phone for a moment, then said, "She's in the shower. She said to just let me go on up. The clerk remained professional and cautious. I'm sorry, sir, but for security reasons, we need direct confirmation from the guest herself. I knew that approach was a dead end, so I changed my strategy. I took a seat in the hotel lobby, pretending to wait for someone while I kept my eyes on the elevator indicator for the 12th floor. Around 3 in the afternoon, I saw the elevator begin its descent from 12. Clara and the young man walked out. I immediately stood up and followed them at a safe distance. They got into Clara's car, and I followed in mine. Their first stop was the mall, where they spent about half an hour in a luxury goods store. When they came out, the young man was wearing a brand new watch on his wrist. It had to be the one Clara had bought the day before. From there, they went to a high-end restaurant for an early dinner, acting affectionate and close, exactly like a couple deeply in love. I sat in my car parked across the street from the restaurant and recorded everything on my phone. At 5 o'clock, they returned to the hotel. This time I didn't try to follow them inside. I drove home and began to meticulously organize the evidence I had gathered. The photos, the videos, the times, and the locations. I documented everything, but I knew it wasn't enough. I needed more direct, irrefutable proof. That evening, I received a text message from Clara. Just landed in San Francisco. Everything's going well. Miss you. Attached was a photograph of the San Francisco skyline at night. A cold sneer formed on my face. I replied, "Miss you too, don't work too hard." Then, I did a reverse image search on the photo she had sent me. Unsurprisingly, it was a generic stock image from the internet. She was a compulsive liar. I started to map out a more detailed plan. The next day, I would go to Clara's company and speak with her colleagues. Knowing her personality, I was certain she couldn't have kept her affair a perfect secret. There had to be clues. I also needed to find a way to get closer to Ethan and learn about his background. Most importantly, I needed their hotel records and their private chat logs. I remembered that among our mutual friends, one was a lawyer and another was a private investigator. Perhaps they could provide some assistance. I couldn't sleep that night, not out of sadness, but out of a building sense of rage. For 3 years I had dedicated a significant portion of my life to this woman, and she had betrayed me without a second thought. If she was going to be so merciless, then I would have to be ruthless. This conflict would be won by ensuring they paid a significant price. I picked up my phone and dialed my best friend David, who was also a lawyer. "Leo, what's going on, man? It's late for you to be calling. Is something wrong?" I took a deep breath. "David, I need a recommendation for a reliable private investigator, as soon as possible." There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. "Is Clara in some kind of trouble?" he asked. "She's the one who put me in trouble," I said, my voice cold. "I understand. I'll send you the contact information right now. Hey, whatever is happening, I've got your back." A moment later, the private investigator's contact details appeared on my phone. Tomorrow, my plan for retribution would officially begin. "Clara, you thought you were being so clever, but you had no idea. The person who knows you best is also the one who knows best how to dismantle your world." The following morning, I met the private investigator, Mr. Evans, at a coffee shop. He was a man in his 40s, with sharp eyes and a competent demeanor. "Mr. Grant," he said, getting straight to business, "David told me you required my assistance." I didn't waste any time. "I have reason to believe my wife is having an affair. I need you to gather concrete evidence." Mr. Evans nodded. "I've handled many situations like this. What information do you have so far?" I showed him the photos and videos I had taken the previous day. "This young man's name is Ethan. I need to know his real name, his school or place of employment, his family background, and I need their hotel and chat records." Mr. Evans studied the photos. "He looks young, probably a student. I'll start by running an identity check, then I'll find a way to access the hotel records. As for the chat logs, that will require an opportunity." I asked, "How long do you think it will take?" "Give me 3 days. Mr. Evans said. "But you need to be prepared. Sometimes the truth is more brutal than you can imagine." I felt a cold smile touch my lips. I don't care how brutal it is. All I want is the truth. After leaving the coffee shop, I drove to Clara's company. She worked as a creative director at a small advertising agency with about 30 employees. I went to her office under the pretense of bringing afternoon tea for everyone and started a casual conversation with her assistant, Sarah. "Is Clara on a business trip?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "Yes, she left for San Francisco yesterday. Said it was for a major project," Sarah replied. "Leo, you're such a wonderful husband. Clara is so lucky to have you." I smiled. "She works so hard. Of course I have to take care of her. By the way, has she seemed particularly tired lately? I've noticed she's been working late quite a lot." Sarah thought for a moment. "Not that late. She usually leaves around a normal time. But there is a new project that's been quite intense recently. It might involve a lot of travel." Something clicked in my mind. "A new project? What kind of project is it?" "I think it's the annual advertising campaign for a jewelry brand," she said. "The client is very demanding, so Clara is personally overseeing it." A jewelry brand. I immediately remembered Clara taking Ethan to buy that expensive watch yesterday. "Which company is the client?" I pressed. "I think it's Starlight Jewelers," Sarah said, sounding a little unsure. "Starlight Jewelers." I made a mental note. After chatting with her colleagues a bit more, I learned that Clara had indeed been going out frequently, supposedly to meet with clients, but she never specified where she was going or who she was meeting. I also learned that she had recently started dressing more stylishly and had even changed her perfume. To her colleagues, these might have seemed like normal, insignificant changes, but to me, they were all pieces of evidence pointing to her affair. After leaving her office, I drove directly to a Starlight Jewelers store. It was a high-end boutique, elegantly decorated. I pretended I was there to purchase a gift for my wife and struck up a conversation with one of the salespeople. "We're currently working on a new advertising campaign with a very professional agency," the salesperson said enthusiastically. "The creative director is so young and talented. The concept she designed is absolutely brilliant." "Is that so?" I asked. "What's the concept?" "It's themed around true love," she explained, using the story of a young couple to represent the beautiful meaning behind our jewelry. The models we used in the store are a real couple, so the photographs look incredibly natural. My heart tightened in my chest. "The models are a real couple?" "Yes," she confirmed. "The creative director said that only people who are genuinely in love can truly convey the meaning of the jewelry. She even participated in the photo shoot herself, modeling alongside her boyfriend." It's so romantic. I clenched my fists in my pockets, fighting to keep my composure, and continued to ask questions. "Is her boyfriend also in the advertising industry?" "No, I think he's a college student studying art. He's incredibly handsome. In fact, he picked out one of our collaboration watches. They said it was for the photo shoot, but I think his girlfriend just wanted to gift it to him." A college student studying art. All the details lined up perfectly with the Ethan I had seen yesterday. I lingered in the store for a while longer, pretending to browse while actually examining the advertising posters. Sure enough, in one of the store's promotional brochures, I saw a picture of Clara and Ethan. In the photograph, they were embracing, looking just like a real couple. The way Clara looked at Ethan was filled with a tenderness that I had never seen from her before. I discreetly took several pictures of the brochure with my phone, and then calmly walked out of the store. Sitting in my car, I finally couldn't contain my anger any longer and slammed my fist against the steering wheel. It wasn't out of sadness, but out of pure, unadulterated rage. They weren't just having a simple affair. They were packaging their betrayal as a story of true love, and even using it to make money. This was the ultimate insult to our marriage. I took a few deep breaths, forcing myself to calm down, and sent a text message to Mr. Evans, telling him what I had just discovered. He replied quickly. "This is an excellent lead. I'll expedite the investigation. By the way, do you have a specific time they were at the hotel? I need it to check the records." I thought for a moment and replied, "Yesterday between 3 and 5 p.m. They're probably there today as well." "Got it. I'm on it," he responded. After hanging up, I drove home. On the way, I received a message from Clara. "In a meeting. We'll call you later." I replied with a cold smile. "Okay, don't work too hard." Then I deleted the conversation, just as I was sure she deleted her chats with Ethan. If she could act, so could I. And I would do it better. Back at home, I began to organize all the evidence I had collected over the past 2 days. Photos, videos, recordings, times, and locations. I categorized everything meticulously and saved it to a secure cloud server. I now had enough evidence to prove Clara's affair, but that wasn't enough. I didn't just want a divorce. I wanted them to pay a much steeper price. I wanted everyone to know what kind of person Clara truly was. I wanted to ruin her reputation in our social circle. I wanted her career to suffer. Most importantly, I wanted to take back everything that was rightfully mine. This conflict was just beginning. On the 3rd day, Mr. Evans sent me a detailed investigation report. The young man's name was Ethan Cole, 21 years old, a junior at a local art college. His family was working class. His parents were factory workers. He and Clara had known each other for 3 months, ever since the jewelry advertising project began. Crucially, Mr. Evans had managed to obtain their hotel records. For the past 3 months, they had been meeting at various hotels almost every week, for a total of over 20 times. Mr. Evans also discovered that Clara had transferred money to Ethan's bank account, totaling over $80,000 in 3 months. That $80,000 had come from our joint bank account. She was using my money to support her young lover. Looking at the evidence, my anger reached a boiling point. But what made me even more furious was the final piece of information from Mr. Evans. "According to my investigation, your wife is already making preparations to move in with the student. She viewed several apartments yesterday and plans to rent one next month." I took a deep, steadying breath, forcing myself to remain calm. Anger wouldn't solve anything. What I needed was the perfect form of revenge. I called Mr. Evans back. "This is excellent. Now I need you to do one last thing for me." "What is it?" he asked. "I need their chat history, especially from the last few days." Mr. Evans paused. "That's difficult. It requires physical access to her phone." "I have a way," I said. "She's coming home tonight. I'll figure out how to get her phone." That afternoon, I received a message from Clara. "The project went really well. I'm flying home tonight." I replied, "That's great. I'll make your favorite dishes for you." Then I went to the grocery store and even bought a bottle of good red wine. Clara arrived home at 8 o'clock, looking very pleased with herself. "Honey, did you miss me?" she said, hugging me and kissing my cheek. I fought back the urge to recoil and smiled. "Of course I did. Go wash up. I made your favorite sweet and sour ribs." At dinner, I deliberately kept her wine glass full. "Here's to a successful project," I said, raising my glass. Clara was in high spirits and downed several glasses in quick succession. As the wine took effect, she became more talkative, bragging about how successful the project had been. "Leo, you have no idea. The creative concept for this jewelry ad is amazing. The client is extremely satisfied. I found a really unique pair of models, and the photos turned out so authentic." "Really? What kind of models?" I asked, feigning interest. "A very young, handsome boy, an art student. He's got a special kind of charisma. The female model he worked with was great too." As she spoke, her eyes seemed to glaze over with a fond memory. I knew the female model she was referring to was herself, but she didn't dare say it. "Is your company really busy with projects lately?" I continued, fishing for more information. "It's okay, but big projects like this are rare." She was getting a bit drunk, her speech slurring slightly. "Actually, this project... Never mind. Let's not talk about work. Let's talk about something else." She tried to put her arm around me, but I deftly moved away. "You've had too much to drink. You should go take a shower," I said. "Okay, I'll go shower," she replied, standing up unsteadily. After she went into the bedroom, she placed her phone on the nightstand and went into the adjoining bathroom. This was my chance. I tiptoed into the bedroom and picked up her phone. The password was still my birthday. She hadn't bothered to change it. I quickly opened her messaging app and found her chat with Ethan Cole. She had changed his contact name to Ethan Baby. The chat history was filled with nauseatingly sweet messages. "Babe, you were so handsome at the shoot today. I couldn't take my eyes off you." "Stop. You're making me blush." "I'm serious. You're the most handsome guy I've ever seen." "What about your husband?" "Don't mention him. We're just a couple on paper. There's no love left. After this project is over, I'll divorce him, and then we can be together." "Really? You're not lying to me, are you?" "Of course not. I'm already looking at apartments. When you graduate, we'll move in together." My hands were trembling as I read their exchange. So, she wasn't just cheating. She was actively planning to divorce me and move in with that student. I scrolled further down and saw something that enraged me even more. "Babe, I have to go home and play house with my husband tomorrow. Don't be mad, okay? I know it must be hard for you, but it'll be over soon, right?" "Yes, very soon. I've already contacted a lawyer to start drafting the divorce papers." "So, when can we get the apartment?" "Next month. I need to figure out how to transfer some assets first so I lose less in the divorce." "Transfer assets?" I immediately took screenshots of these messages and then went to their transfer history. The $80,000 was indeed sent to Ethan in several installments, and the most recent transfer was just yesterday for $18,000. The memo said rent. She had already started paying his rent. I also saw that they had plans to view an apartment the next afternoon and sign the lease. The sound of the water in the bathroom stopped. Clara was almost done. I quickly put the phone back where I found it and quietly slipped out of the bedroom. When Clara came out of the shower, she seemed to have sobered up a bit. "Leo, I'm a little tired. I'm going to bed," she said. "Okay, you go ahead. I'll watch some TV." After she fell asleep, I sent all the screenshots to Mr. Evans. He replied quickly, "This is more than enough evidence. What's your plan?" I thought for a moment and replied, "I'm going to give them a surprise they'll never forget." The next morning, Clara said she had to go to the office to handle some things. I knew she was going to meet Ethan and look at the apartment. "Go ahead," I said calmly. "I'm going out too, meeting up with a friend for coffee." "Okay, let's have dinner together tonight," she said. She kissed me and left. Watching her leave, I let out a cold laugh. Dinner together tonight? I didn't think she would have the opportunity. Today was the day I would strike back. As soon as Clara left, I set my plan for revenge into motion. First, I called my best friend and lawyer, David. "David, I need your help," I said, getting straight to the point. "What's wrong? You don't sound right," David said, sensing the tension in my voice. "Clara's cheating on me. I need you to draft a divorce agreement and file to freeze our assets." There were a few seconds of silence on the other end. "Leo, are you sure?" "Positive. I have all the proof." I quickly summarized the evidence I had collected over the past few days. David was furious. "That bitch, Leo, don't you worry. I'll make sure you get everything you deserve." "Thanks, man." Don't mention it. We're brothers. So, when are you planning to drop the bomb? This afternoon, I said. They're going to look at an apartment. I'm going to give them a little surprise. After hanging up, I contacted Mr. Evans. I need you to follow them this afternoon and record the entire process of them viewing the apartment. No problem. Send me the address, he replied. Then, I started preparing for the main event. I was going to show up while Clara and Ethan were looking at the apartment and expose their whole charade. But before that, I had something more important to do. I drove to the bank and transferred all the money from our joint account into my personal account. Half of that money was mine to begin with, and the other half was earned from the startup fund I gave her. I had every right to protect my assets. Then, I went to Clara's office. Sarah, is Clara in? I asked her assistant. Hey, Leo, she went out this morning to meet a client, Sarah said. Oh, okay, I'll wait for her. I sat down in her office. When Sarah wasn't looking, I stuck a small recording device under Clara's desk. Mr. Evans had given it to me. It could record remotely and also track its location. This way, even if Clara wasn't in her office, I would know where she was and what she was doing. At 2 p.m, I got a message from Mr. Evans. They're at the apartment building now. It's a luxury high-rise downtown. I immediately drove over. It was a new, upscale complex with a nice environment and an expensive price tag. I waited at the entrance for a few minutes and saw Clara and Ethan walk out, holding hands. Ethan looked thrilled, chattering away to Clara as they walked. Clara's expression was tender, the very picture of a woman in love. I took a deep breath, got out of the car, and walked towards them. Honey, fancy seeing you here, I called out loudly. When Clara heard my voice, her face went deathly pale. Ethan froze, looking at me nervously. Leo, what are you doing here? Clara stammered. I was visiting a friend and just happened to run into you, I said, walking up to them with a smile. And who is this? Clara opened her mouth, but didn't know how to introduce him. Ethan, however, was quick on his feet. Hello, sir. I'm a client of Miss Willow's. We just finished looking at an apartment. Sir? The term almost made me laugh out loud. I'm only 28 and he was calling me sir? Oh, a client, I said, pretending to understand. You're a handsome young man. You look like a college student. Thank you, sir, Ethan said, blushing slightly. Clara stood beside them, looking extremely uncomfortable, constantly shooting glances at Ethan. So, since you were looking at apartments, did you find one you like? I continued my innocent act. We're still thinking about it, Clara managed to reply. I've heard this complex is great, just a bit pricey. Are you going to be living here by yourself? I asked, looking at Ethan. Ethan grew flustered. Yes. A young man living in such a nice place, your family must be well off. Ethan's face turned even redder, and he didn't know how to respond. Clara finally couldn't take it anymore. Leo, we have to go. Oh, okay, you guys go ahead, I said with a smile. By the way, honey, didn't you say you had a business trip? When are you leaving? Tomorrow, Clara said, her guilt obvious. Then let's have a nice dinner tonight, I said deliberately, my voice loud. I'll make your favorite. Hearing this, Ethan's expression clearly changed. Clara was also very embarrassed. Oh, okay. Seeing their flustered looks filled me with a sense of satisfaction. Well, I won't keep you. See you later, I said, waving. As I turned to leave, I heard Ethan whisper to Clara, Is that your husband? I didn't catch Clara's reply, but I was sure it wasn't anything nice. I got back in my car and sent a message to Mr. Evans. Did you get it? The whole thing on video, including your conversation, he replied. Good. Now for the next phase. I drove home and started preparing for tonight's grand finale. If Clara wanted to act, then I would act with her. Only this time I was going to show her what real acting was. At 6 o'clock, Clara came home right on time. She was in a terrible mood, her face dark. "Honey, what's wrong? You look upset," I asked with concern. "Nothing. Just work stuff," she said evasively. "Did the meeting with your client this afternoon not go well?" I deliberately brought it up. Clara's body visibly tensed. "It was fine. The client is just a bit difficult." "I thought that young man seemed pretty easygoing," I said casually. "He just looks very young, like a student." "Really? I didn't notice," Clara said, avoiding my gaze. I dropped the subject and went to the kitchen to cook. At the dinner table, Clara was distracted, constantly checking her phone. I knew she was texting Ethan, trying to explain what happened this afternoon. "Honey, are you really going on a business trip tomorrow?" I asked. "Yeah, the company arranged it," she said without looking up. "Where to?" "San Francisco again." I nodded. "Be careful then. The weather's been bad lately." "I know." She was still glued to her phone. I walked up behind her and pretended to glance at her screen with concern. Just as I thought, she was chatting with Ethan. "Don't worry about what happened today. I'll handle it." "But I'm worried. What if your husband suspects something?" "He won't. He's simple. He won't overthink it." "Simple?" I scoffed internally. She really underestimated me. After dinner, Clara said she was going to the study to handle some work. I knew she was going to video chat with Ethan to calm him down after today's shock. I watched TV in the living room, but I was actually listening for sounds from the study. Sure enough, I soon heard the sounds of their video call. "Babe, I was so scared today." Ethan's voice sounded pitiful. "I'm sorry you had to go through that." Clara's voice was gentle. "But you handled it well. He probably didn't suspect a thing." "But he asked so many questions. I didn't know what to say." "It's okay. A coincidence like that won't happen again. We'll sign the contract tomorrow and you can move in next month." "Really? But the rent is so expensive." "Don't worry, I'll pay for it. I'd spend any amount of money for you." "You're so good to me. But what about your husband?" "Don't worry, I'll handle him. In 6 months at most, I'll divorce him. Then we can be together openly." 6 months? She really had it all figured out. 6 months was enough time for her to transfer all the assets. I tiptoed to the study door and peeked through the crack. Clara was smiling foolishly at her phone. I had never seen that expression on her face before, not even when we were first married. I took out my phone and recorded the whole thing. The video call lasted for over an hour. They exchanged countless sweet nothings and planned how they would decorate their new apartment. Listening to all this, my heart turned to ice. In her eyes, I was just a tool she could discard at any time. 3 years of marriage meant nothing to her. If that's how it was, then she couldn't blame me for being ruthless. After the video call ended, Clara came out of the study looking much happier. "Finished with work?" I asked. "Yeah, now I can go on my trip tomorrow with peace of mind," she said. "Then you should get some rest." That night, Clara slept soundly, even smiling in her dreams a few times. But I was wide awake, organizing all the evidence and finalizing my plan for tomorrow. The next morning, Clara was ready to leave again. "Honey, I'm off," she said, giving me a routine kiss. "Be safe," I replied, still gentle. As soon as she left, I called David. "David, is the divorce agreement ready?" "All set. Just like you asked, the property division is heavily in your favor, and the asset freeze request has been submitted." "Good. We can make our move this afternoon." Then I contacted Mr. Evans. "The final step. Are you ready?" "Standing by," he replied. I checked the time. 10 in the morning. Based on what I overheard last night, Clara and Ethan were scheduled to sign the lease at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And that's when I would give them a surprise they would never forget. I put on my best suit and styled my hair. If I was going to face off against a pretty boy, I was going to do it in my best form. The final chapter of this conflict was about to begin. At 2 o'clock sharp, I arrived at the leasing office of the luxury apartment building. Through the glass doors, I saw Clara and Ethan signing the contract with the leasing manager. Ethan was dressed in trendy streetwear, looking young and stylish, while Clara looked at him with adoration, squeezing his hand from time to time. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. "Ma'am, sir, congratulations on choosing our property," I said to the leasing manager with a smile. "I'm the actual tenant for this apartment, and this is my wife, Clara." The entire room fell silent. Clara's face turned as white as a sheet, and the pen in her hand clattered onto the table. Ethan was stunned, looking at me completely at a loss. The leasing manager was even more confused. What's going on?" "It's like this," I said calmly, taking a seat. "My wife wasn't entirely truthful just now. This apartment is being rented with our marital assets, and according to the law, I have the right to be informed and involved in the decision." Clara finally snapped out of her shock. "Leo, how did you know about this place?" "Why wouldn't I know?" I retorted. "You're using my money to rent an apartment for your little lover? You don't think I have a right to know?" The words "little lover" instantly made the atmosphere tense. Ethan's face flushed crimson, and tears started to well up in his eyes. The leasing manager, realizing this was a domestic dispute, tried to excuse himself. Maybe you should sort out your family matters first?" "No need," I stopped him. "The contract still needs to be signed, but the signatory needs to be changed." I took a stack of documents from my bag. "These are the bank statements for our joint accounts, along with transfer records. Miss Clara Grant has transferred $80,000 to Mr. Ethan Cole over the last 3 months, all from our joint funds." I placed the documents on the table. According to marital law, any unilateral disposal of joint property by one spouse is invalid. Therefore, this lease agreement must be signed by me. Clara's voice trembled. "Leo, listen to me. Let me explain." "Explain?" I sneered. "How are you going to explain it? Explain you two getting a room at the Ritz? Explain buying him an $18,000 watch? Or explain the loving embrace you shared while shooting that jewelry ad?" With every word, Clara's face grew paler. Ethan was already crying. "Sir, I didn't know." "Don't call me sir," I cut him off. "I'm 28, not your uncle. And stop playing the victim. You seemed pretty happy during your video chat with my wife last night, didn't you?" Ethan looked at Clara in shock. You have cameras in your house?" It was then that Clara realized I knew everything. When did you find out?" she asked, her voice strained. "From the moment you misdialed 3 days ago," I said flatly. "You meant to call your little lover, but called me instead. You two sounded so sweet on that call." Clara slumped into her chair, utterly defeated. She finally understood that my gentleness and concern over the past few days had all been an act. "Now, let's get down to business," I continued. "I am willing to continue renting this apartment to Mr. Cole. However, the rent will need to be recalculated." I pulled out another document. This is a new lease agreement drafted by my lawyer. The monthly rent is $30,000, with 1 month's rent and 12 months' deposit paid up front. There is also a penalty fee of $100,000. "30,000?" Ethan exclaimed. "I thought it was 8,000. 8,000 was the old price," I said calmly. "Prices have gone up, and considering your special relationship, there's a moral hazard fee." Clara stood up in anger. "Leo, don't you dare go too far." "Too far?" I stood up as well. "You used my money to keep another man. Who do you think went too far?" Just then, footsteps approached the door. Mr. Evans walked in with 2 other people. Mr. Grant, here are the witnesses you requested. I recognized the two people. One was Clara's college classmate, and the other was her colleague from work. They were both shocked by the scene. "Clara, what's going on?" her classmate asked. I answered before Clara could. "Clara cheated on me and used our joint assets to rent an apartment for her lover. Now, I'm going to settle this score with her in front of everyone." Clara wanted to explain, but she was at a loss for words. With all the evidence laid out, any explanation would be futile. "Miss Grant, how could you do something like this?" her colleague said in disbelief. I, Clara stammered, unable to form a complete sentence. At this point, Ethan completely broke down, crying. "I didn't know she was married. She told me they were already divorced." "Mr. Cole, your lying skills need some work," I said, pulling out my phone. "This is a recording of your video chat from last night. Why don't you listen to what you two said?" I played a clip. "But what about your husband?" "Don't worry, I'll handle him. In 6 months at most, I'll divorce him." After the recording played, the room was silent. Ethan's lie had been exposed. "Now let's talk about compensation," I continued. "Miss Grant, the $80,000 you transferred to Mr. Cole needs to be returned, doubled. Additionally, you will compensate me for the emotional distress you have caused." I presented the final document. "This is a compensation agreement for a total of $500,000. You can pay in a lump sum or in installments." Clara was dumbfounded. $500,000? Where would I get that much money? "No money?" I sneered. "Then you can work it off. I will personally inform every single one of your company's clients about what happened today, and let them know exactly what kind of person you are." You can't do that," Clara panicked. "Why can't I?" I shot back. "When you were betraying our marriage, did you ever consider the consequences?" At that moment, the leasing manager timidly asked, "So, is the apartment still being rented?" "Yes," I said. "At the new price. If Mr. Cole can't afford it, then he can get out of Miss Grant's life." Ethan looked at Clara desperately, but Clara was too preoccupied with her own problems to care. The drama was finally coming to an end. After leaving the leasing office, Clara followed me, pleading non-stop. "Leo, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. I'll change." I walked toward my car without looking back. "Change? What will you change? Your habit of cheating or your habit of lying?" "I'll change everything. I'll change it all," she said desperately. "Just don't divorce me. I'll agree to any conditions." I stopped and turned to face her. "You're scared now? When you and Ethan were planning the divorce and how to split the assets, did you ever consider my feelings?" Clara's face turned even paler. You heard all of that?" "Not only heard it, I recorded it," I said flatly, "including the part where you said I was simple and wouldn't overthink it." Clara was utterly hopeless. Her legs gave out, and she nearly collapsed to her knees. "Leo, I was truly wrong. I was just confused when I said those things. The person I love most is still you." "Don't make me sick," I said with disgust. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have been screwing around behind my back for 3 months. Just then, my phone rang. It was David. "Leo, the asset freeze is in effect. All accounts under her name are frozen. Also, the divorce agreement is ready. When do you want to come sign?" "I'm on my way now," I said. I hung up and looked at Clara. "Did you hear that? Your accounts are frozen. If you want them unfrozen, pay me back what you owe me first." "But if my accounts are frozen, how can I pay you back?" Clara said in a panic. "That's your problem," I said coldly. "You can ask Ethan for it, borrow from your parents, or sell your shares in the company. Whatever you do, I want to see the money within a week." With that, I got in my car and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw Clara standing there. looking like a lost and broken woman. In the distance, Ethan watched, his face filled with fear and despair. That cheating pair was finally getting a taste of what betrayal costs. I drove to David's law firm. "Leo, you were incredible today," David said excitedly. "I never knew you had such a tough side." "When you're pushed to the edge, you can do anything," I said with a wry smile. "So, what's the plan now? Are you really going through with the divorce?" I nodded. "I have to. I can't forgive this kind of betrayal for a single second." "Good. I support you," David said. "With the evidence you have, you can get most of the assets, plus emotional damages." We spent 2 hours finalizing the details of the divorce agreement, ensuring my interests were maximized. During that time, Clara called me over a dozen times. I ignored every call. She also sent a flood of texts, all apologies and pleas for forgiveness. I didn't bother reading them. At 6 in the evening, I went home. Clara was already waiting at the door, looking much more haggard. "Leo, can we please talk?" she pleaded. "There's nothing to talk about," I said coldly. "Either you pay me back within a week, or you sign the divorce papers." "I really know I was wrong. Please, just give me one more chance," she said, grabbing my hand. "We've had a good 3 years, haven't we? Why do we have to get a divorce over this one thing?" I shook her hand off. "A good 3 years? You think lying to me for 3 months, using my money to support your toy boy, and planning to divorce me and transfer our assets behind my back is good?" I was just confused," she explained. "I don't have real feelings for him. It was just a thrill." "A thrill?" I sneered. "Transferring $80,000 to him, buying him a watch, renting him an apartment, that's all just a thrill?" Clara was speechless. "And another thing," I continued. "That loving embrace in the ad, that foolish smile on your face during your video chats, was that all just a thrill too?" "Leo, don't say my name. It disgusts me," I cut her off. "From today on, we are strangers. You either pay me back, or you get a divorce. There is no third option." With that, I pushed past her and went inside. Clara tried to follow, but I shut the door in her face. She banged on the door for a long time, yelling and pleading, but I ignored it all. I sat in the living room, staring at our wedding photo on the wall, a storm of emotions brewing inside me. 3 years of marriage, ending just like this. It would be a lie to say I wasn't hurt, but mostly I felt anger and disappointment. I had loved this woman. I had given up so much for her, and she had betrayed me in the cruelest way possible. If that's how it was, then she couldn't blame me for being ruthless. This was a war I was going to win, completely and utterly. Over the next few days, Clara began her journey of repayment. First, she went to Ethan for the money, but he was a student from a working-class family and couldn't possibly come up with that much. They got into a huge fight over money, and things ended badly. Then Clara went to her parents to borrow money, but when they found out she had cheated, they were furious. Not only did they refuse to lend her money, but they also gave her a harsh lecture. Her parents even called me to apologize, saying they hadn't raised their daughter right, and that I had been wronged. Finally, Clara was left with no choice but to sell her shares in her company. But when news of this got out, her reputation at the company plummeted. Her colleagues started looking at her differently, and clients began to question her character. The jewelry company project, in particular, was immediately canceled after the client learned about her real relationship with the model. Clara's career began to crumble. As for me, I started a new life. I threw myself back into my work, picking up projects I had put on hold for the sake of our family. I also met up with some old friends and told them about my impending divorce. They were all supportive of my decision, agreeing that Clara wasn't worth wasting my life on. "Leo, a guy like you deserves someone better," my friend Jessica said. You'll be so much happier once you're rid of a snake like her. Yeah, man. You're young. Get the divorce over with and start fresh, another friend added. With my friend's support, I felt even more certain about my decision. Meanwhile, rumors about Clara's affair started to spread online. Somehow, the story of what happened at the leasing office got out, and someone had even taken a video. Although you couldn't see faces clearly in the video, anyone who knew the situation knew what was happening. Clara's image in our social circle completely collapsed. Her friends started to distance themselves from her, afraid of being associated with the scandal. Ethan wasn't doing any better. His classmates all found out he had been a homewrecker and pointed and whispered at him at school. His parents also found out and came all the way from their hometown to take him back. According to Mr. Evans, Ethan ended up dropping out of college and going home. So much for Clara's true love. A week later, Clara finally scraped the money together. She had sold her company shares at a low price and borrowed from a few friends, finally managing to come up with the $500,000. When she transferred the money to my account, I could see the despair and resentment in her eyes. "I've paid you back. Can we get back together now?" she asked, making a last-ditch effort. "No," I refused flatly. The money was just the first step. Next, we finalized the divorce. "Leo, please!" "Don't beg me. Beg the judge," I said coldly. "Court tomorrow, 10 a.m. be there." The next day, we officially processed our divorce at the courthouse. The process was smooth, the evidence was irrefutable, and Clara had no grounds to contest the division of assets. The house was mine, the car was mine, and most of the savings were mine. Clara was left with only a small amount of cash, barely enough to get by. When the judge declared the divorce final, I felt a sense of relief I had never known. 3 years of marriage had finally come to an end. And Clara had lost everything. Her career, her family, her reputation, all destroyed by one affair. As I walked out of the courthouse, I saw Clara sitting on the steps, looking like a beggar on the street. She saw me and looked like she wanted to say something, but in the end she said nothing, just watched me walk away with a look of utter despair. I felt no pity for her. She had brought all of this on herself. Betraying a marriage has a price, and she was now paying it. 6 months later, I received some unexpected news. Clara had gone bankrupt. Her company had failed after losing its main clients, and she was being sued over debt. The irony was that Ethan hadn't stuck with her either. When she hit rock bottom, Ethan found a rich older woman and completely abandoned Clara. I heard that when Clara found out, she broke down crying in the street. She finally understood what goes around comes around truly meant. As for me, I started a brand new life. I redecorated the house, getting rid of everything that reminded me of Clara. I started working out, bought new clothes, and completely reinvented myself. I was also doing great at work. Freed from the distractions of domestic life, I could fully dedicate myself to my career. Not long ago, I got a promotion and a raise, doubling my previous income. My friends all said I looked much better now than I did when I was married, radiating confidence. "Leo, you look amazing now," David remarked. "Leaving that cheating woman was the best decision you ever made." I smiled and nodded. "Yeah, my life is much better without her. Recently, friends have tried to set me up with people, but I've politely declined. After this betrayal, I'm not ready to jump into another relationship just yet. I want to focus on loving myself and building my own life. As for love, if it happens, it happens." One night, I was organizing old photos and came across our wedding picture. In the photo, Clara was smiling so brightly, as if I were the most important person in her life. Looking at it now, I could see how fake that smile was. I picked up the photo and tore it to shreds without a second thought. The past is in the past. It was time to look forward. Just then, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello? Is this Mr. Leo Grant? Yes, who is this? I'm a reporter from Modern Man magazine. We heard you recently went through a unique marital experience, and we'd like to interview you to share your story with our male readers. I thought about it for a moment, and agreed. Maybe my experience could help other men who were going through a similar betrayal, to let them know that being cheated on isn't the end, but not having the courage to fight back is. A week later, my story was published in the magazine under the headline, "He Taught a Cheater the Ultimate Lesson: Betrayal Has a Price." The article received a huge response. Many male readers left comments, sharing their own similar experiences and thanking me for giving them courage. One comment in particular stuck with me. After reading your story, I've decided to stop tolerating my wife's affair. Thank you for making me realize that men can be strong too, and we can make those who betray us pay the price. Reading these comments, I felt a sense of validation. If my painful experience could help other men, then it had meaning. Later, I received a special invitation. A well-known law firm invited me to be a legal consultant specializing in helping men who have been victims of marital betrayal. I accepted the offer and started my new career. In the process of helping others, I was also healing myself. Every time I saw one of these men regain their confidence and happiness, I knew I had made the right choice. As for Clara, I never heard from her again. Maybe she started over somewhere, or maybe she's still paying the price for her betrayal. But either way, it had nothing to do with me anymore. I had completely walked out of that dark chapter and into my own sunlight. Now, I am stronger and stand taller than ever before, because I know that a man's greatest charm isn't his dependence on a woman, but his independence, his strength, and his ability to live for himself. That was the most important lesson I learned from that betrayal, and it's what I want to tell all men out there. Never underestimate your own strength and never tolerate betrayal. You deserve a better life, and you have the power to create a better future.